Clara Bennett's fingers clawed into the scorched Wyoming earth, dragging her broken body another 6 inches toward a promise she refused to break. 3 days. 3 days since the stagecoach tumbled into Devil's Gorge. 3 days of crawling through summer heat that could kill a healthy man in hours. Her lips cracked and bleeding, she whispered the same words that had kept her moving. I gave my word. I gave my word. 20 miles north, a cowboy named Samuel Thornton stood at the depot, clutching a letter that had worn soft from reading, watching an empty horizon where his future should have arrived. Welcome to a story of impossible survival and love forged in fire. Stay until the end to see how a promise made in letters becomes a family born from dust and devotion. Subscribe to our channel and comment your city below so I can see how far this story reaches across the world. The Wyoming summer of 1887 had turned cruel. Samuel Thornton had been standing at the Clearwater Depot since dawn, his weathered boots planted on warped planks that radiated heat like a cook stove. His 8-year-old daughter Rosie sat on the bench behind him, her small hands folded in her lap, her eyes fixed on the same empty railroad tracks her father watched. "Papa." Rosie's voice came soft, uncertain. "The stage was supposed to come yesterday." "I know. And the day before." "I know that too, little bird." Sam didn't turn around. Couldn't. If he looked at his daughter's face right now, he'd see hope dying by degrees, and he'd had enough of watching hope die in the eyes of people he loved. The letter in his coat pocket had been read so many times, the creases had worn thin. He didn't need to pull it out anymore. Every word lived in his memory now. "I will arrive on the afternoon stage July 18th. I give you my word, Mr. Thornton. Whatever stands between us and that meeting, I will find a way through it. I am not a woman who breaks promises. Yours in anticipation, Clara Bennett." July 18th had come and gone. Then the 19th. Now the 20th crawled toward noon, and the platform remained empty of everything except dust and disappointment. The station master, a thin man named Wilkins, with spectacles that never stayed straight, emerged from the telegraph office. Sam read disaster in every line of his posture before the man spoke a word. "Mr. Thornton?" Wilkins' Adam's apple bobbed. "Got a wire from the junction." Sam's hand found Rosie's shoulder. She'd risen from the bench, pressing close to his side, the way she did whenever bad news approached. 3 years since cholera took her mother and baby brother, and the child had learned to read storms before they hit. "What's it say?" Wilkins glanced at Rosie, then back at Sam. "Maybe the little one should." "She stays. What's it say?" The station master unfolded the yellow paper with trembling fingers. "Westbound stage wrecked in the Badlands, 20 miles south near Devil's Gorge. Driver dead, 3 passengers." He paused. "No survivors expected." The world narrowed to the edges of that telegram. When Sam's voice came out steady, though something inside him had started to crack. 4 days ago. Stage was supposed to arrive here on the 18th. 4 days. Clara had promised to arrive on the 18th. The crash happened on the 18th. 4 days of summer heat in the Badlands would kill anyone who survived the wreck itself. They list passengers. No names, just said commercial stage regular route. Rosie tugged his sleeve. "Papa, what's a wreck?" Sam knelt, bringing himself eye level with the only person he had left in this world. Her dark eyes, Mary's eyes, searched his face for reassurance he couldn't honestly give. "It means something broke, sweetheart. Something broke real bad, and people might need help." "Is it the lady Miss Clara?" The question hung in the superheated air. Around them, Clearwater went about its business. A freight wagon rolling past. Someone hammering at the smithy. Mrs. Henderson emerging from the general store with her packages. Normal life continuing its relentless march while Sam's own threatened to shatter. "I don't know." He smoothed a strand of hair behind Rosie's ear. "But I'm going to find out." Wilkins cleared his throat. "Mr. Thornton, that wire says no survivors expected. 4 days in this heat. Even if someone lived through the crash, then I'll bury them proper." Sam straightened his decision already made. "Rosie, you're staying with the Hendersons." "No." Her small face set in lines he recognized. Mary's stubbornness inherited pure and strong. "This ain't—" "You said Miss Clara wrote that she'd find a way through anything." Rosie's chin lifted. "You read me that letter 3 times, Papa. She said whatever stands between us, she'll find a way." "Maybe she's finding a way right now. Maybe she needs help finding it." Sam looked at his daughter. 8 years old and already too acquainted with loss. She'd watched her mother waste away from cholera, watched him dig 2 graves in 1 week, one regular-sized one, heartbreakingly small. For 3 years, they'd managed alone their grief. A third presence at every meal, every bedtime. The letters to Clara had been an act of desperation that became something else. Her responses had revealed a woman who understood loss without drowning in it. A woman who'd spent 12 years raising her sister after their parents died, who'd nursed that sister through scarlet fever, who'd given up her own chances at marriage to ensure someone else's survival. "I am 34 years old," she'd written, "and I have never once chosen something solely for myself, until now. I choose this, Mr. Thornton. I choose your daughter who needs a mother. I choose you sight unseen, because your letters speak of partnership as if it were sacred. I choose the unknown over the familiar cage of obligation." And now she might be dead in the desert, her choice reduced to bones and broken promises. "All right." Sam made his decision. "You ride with me, but you do exactly what I say when I say it. Understood?" Rosie nodded, solemn as a judge. An hour later they rode south. 2 horses, enough water for 3 days' bandages, laudanum whiskey for cleaning wounds, and a shovel strapped to the pack saddle. The landscape shifted from the relative green near Clearwater's Creek to harder country, where Wyoming showed its true nature, red rock scrub sage distances that swallowed sound and hope in equal measure. Rosie rode in front of Sam, her small body fitting against his chest. She'd been quiet since leaving town. "Papa." "Yeah, little bird." "If Miss Clara is hurt real bad, can we fix her?" The question assumed so much. That Clara was the passenger, that she'd survived, that fixing was possible. "I don't know, but if she's out there, we won't leave her alone." "Mama was alone." Rosie's voice went small. "When she died. You were getting Dr. Wade, and I was too little to help, and she was alone." Sam's throat tightened. They'd never talked directly about that night. He'd assumed Rosie had been too young to remember details. "You were with her. In the house. That ain't alone." "But I didn't know how to help. I just sat there watching her shake and shake." Rosie's fingers twisted in the horse's mane. "If Miss Clara is hurt, I want to know how to help this time." The sun beat down as they rode. Sam tried to find words adequate to the moment and came up empty. Instead, he tightened his arm around his daughter and kept moving. They reached Devil's Gorge as afternoon shadows began stretching east. The wreckage announced itself first by smell, the sweet-sick odor of death ripening in heat, then by sight. The stagecoach, a splintered ruin 50 feet down the canyon slope, canted at an angle that spoke of violent tumbling. Sam reined in his hand, covering Rosie's eyes. "Don't look." But she'd already seen. "Stay with the horses." He dismounted, lifting her down. "I mean it, Rosie. Don't move from this spot." He approached the wreck with his bandana tied over his nose and mouth. The driver lay near the road, thrown clear but broken beyond saving. 2 passengers, men by their clothing, were tangled in the stage's remains. 3 bodies. The telegram had said 3 passengers. Sam's pulse quickened. He circled the wreck, scanning the ground. There, drag marks leading away from the wreckage. Not animal tracks. Too deliberate. Too purposeful. 2 parallel grooves in the dust, like someone had been dragging themselves with both legs useless. He followed the marks into the shadow of an overhang where the rock formation created a shallow cave, and there, curled in on herself like something trying to disappear into the stone, was Clara Bennett. She was alive, barely. Her dress was shredded, her legs bent at angles that made Sam's stomach drop. Dried blood crusted her temple, her arms, her hands that were raw meat from days of pulling herself across rock. Her face burned crimson from sun exposure, lips cracked and bleeding. But her chest rose and fell, shallow, rapid, alive. Clara? Her eyelids fluttered. Her eyes, when they opened, were fever-bright and unfocused. Late. The word came out as a croak. I'm late. Promise the 18th. Sam knelt beside her hands, hovering unsure where to touch without causing more pain. You made it farther than anyone expected. The little girl. Rosie. Clara's hand twitched, trying to rise. Is she disappointed? The question cracked something in his chest. This woman dying by inches in a desert canyon, worried about disappointing a child she'd never met. She's here. She rode with me to find you. Clara's eyes cleared for just a moment, finding his face. You came. You gave your word you'd arrive. Seemed only fair I gave mine to meet you. A sound escaped her throat. Might have been a laugh if she'd had the strength for it. Then her eyes rolled back, and consciousness slipped away like water through fingers. Sam worked fast. He climbed back up the slope to find Rosie exactly where he'd left her white-knuckled on the reins. She's there, Rosie asked. Yes. Is she dead? Not yet. He grabbed the canteen medical supplies blankets. But close. I need you to be real brave now. Can you do that? Yes, Papa? They worked as the sun sank toward the western rim. Sam cleaned Clara's wounds best he could, dribbled water between her cracked lips, drop by precious drop, splinted her broken legs with branches. Rosie held supplies. Past bandages spoke in a quiet stream that seemed aimed at Clara's unconscious form rather than her father. We got a real good ranch, Miss Clara. There's a creek with frogs they sing at night. I got a dog named Biscuit. He's yellow and soft. Papa says I can teach you to ride once you're better. Mrs. Henderson makes the best apple pie in the territory. She'll bring you some for sure. You don't gotta be scared. We've been waiting for you a long time. Clara's eyes opened again as Sam was rigging a travois. This time they tracked his movements with more clarity. Can't move me. Each word cost her visible effort. Legs are shattered. You'll kill me trying. You'll die certain if I leave you here. Then that's how it ends. She drew a shuddering breath. I chose this. Knew the risks. The hell it ends here. Sam secured the last knot with more force than necessary. You crawled for 4 days to keep your word. I ain't letting you quit when help is 20 miles away. Not your decision. You wrote that you chose me. He met her eyes, those fever-bright eyes that held a will stronger than her broken body. That means I get a say in whether you live or die, and I say you live. Arrogant bastard. That's the spirit. Sam allowed himself the ghost of a smile. Stay mad, Clara Bennett. Anger's better fuel than hope right now. Moving her onto the travois required every ounce of gentleness Sam possessed. Clara screamed once, a raw animal sound that sent Rosie stumbling backward, then passed out again. They started the journey back in full dark. Sam led his horse with the travois behind Rosie mounted on the second horse. The night pressed close around them, thick with stars and fear. He set a pace measured in heartbeats rather than miles. Slow enough to minimize jolting, fast enough to outrun despair. Hours blended together, periodic stops to check Clara's breathing, to dribble more water between her lips, to adjust the travois ropes. Rosie dozed in the saddle, trusting her horse to follow. Sam walked in a trance of exhaustion and determination, his mind circling the same thoughts. 20 miles. She has to last 20 miles. Just keep moving. Keep breathing, both of you. Keep breathing. Dawn found them still 10 miles from Clearwater. Clara hadn't woken since they'd started moving. Her breathing had gone shallow, irregular. Her skin burned with fever under Sam's palm. Papa? Rosie's voice was scratchy with thirst and fear. Is she gonna make it? He didn't have an honest answer. so he gave her the only truth he could. She's fought this long. We fight longer. They pushed through the morning heat. Sam's body moved on will alone past exhaustion, into a state where each step felt separate from the last. The horses plodded with heads low. Clearwater appeared first as a smudge on the horizon, then distinct buildings, then the real and solid town they'd left a lifetime ago. People emerged from doorways as the strange procession passed. A dust-covered rancher leading a travois bearing a broken woman. A small girl slumped in her saddle like a refugee from some distant war. Wilkins ran from the depot. "Dear God, you found her. Get Dr. Wade." Sam's voice came out as a croak. "Now." The next hours existed in fragments. Dr. Wade's house. Clara being lifted from the travois onto a proper bed. Her scream as broken legs shifted. The doctor's grim face as he examined her. Rosie falling asleep sitting upright in a chair, her hand still reaching for Sam's. Wade emerged from the examination room as afternoon sun slanted through windows. His shirt sleeves were rolled up, his hands still damp from washing. Sam stood, despite every muscle screaming for rest. Both legs broken in multiple places, 3 ribs, possible skull fracture, severe dehydration, sun exposure, infection in half a dozen wounds. Wade recited the litany with professional detachment. Then his voice softened. "Sam, I've seen men die from half of what she's endured. The fact that she's alive at all is—" "Will she live?" Wade hesitated. In that hesitation, Sam saw his own fear reflected back at him. "I don't know. Next few days will tell. If the fever breaks, if infection doesn't set deeper, if her body's got anything left to fight with. Maybe." He put a hand on Sam's shoulder. "But you should prepare yourself for no." Sam's hand cut the air. "She crawled through hell to keep a promise. She doesn't get to die in a clean bed 2 days later. That ain't how this ends." "That's not up to you, Sam." "Then what is?" "Being here. Whatever comes next." Wade's grip tightened briefly. "Go home. Clean up. Sleep. There's nothing you can do here that I can't do better." But Sam couldn't leave. Couldn't step away from the woman who'd chosen him sight unseen, who'd written letters full of careful hope, who'd dragged herself across desert with broken legs, rather than break her word. He settled into the chair beside Rosie, gathered his sleeping daughter into his lap and kept vigil. Clara woke once as night fell. Her eyes found him in the lamplight. "Still here?" Not a question, a statement. "Told you, we don't quit on each other." Her hand moved on the coverlet fingers extending. He took them in his own, those raw, damaged fingers that had clawed at rock for 4 days straight. "Your daughter." Clara's whisper was barely audible. "Beautiful. Brave. You raised her right. She wants to help you heal. Said she didn't know how to help when her mother died, but she wants to learn now." Clara's eyes filled with tears that spilled down her temples. "Then I have to stay alive. Can't disappoint that kind of hope." "That's right." Sam's thumb brushed across her knuckles. "You made a promise to a little girl who believes in keeping them. Time to finish what you started." She held his gaze for a long moment, then nodded once, a tiny movement that cost her visible effort. Her eyes drifted shut, but her fingers tightened around his before releasing back into unconsciousness. Sam sat in that quiet room, Rosie's weight solid against his chest. Clara's breathing, the only sound besides the ticking of Wade's mantel clock. Outside, Clearwater settled into evening rhythms. Dinner smells, closing shop doors, the distant bark of someone's dog. Normal life continuing its march. But in this room, nothing was normal. In this room, 3 people balanced on the edge between loss and possibility. Between the life that was and the life that might still be. The promise that never arrived on schedule had become something else entirely. It had become a choice made and remade with every breath, every mile, every moment of refusal to let go. Clara had chosen to crawl through hell. Sam had chosen to search beyond hope. Rosie had chosen to ride into the desert to save a stranger, Now they would choose again, and keep choosing, until the story found its ending, whatever that ending might be. Sam looked at Clara's face in the lamplight, still flushed, still fevered, but breathing, fighting, refusing to quit. "Stay," he whispered to her sleeping form. "Please stay." And in the darkness of that small room with his daughter warm against his chest, and a woman he barely knew, fighting for her life, Samuel Thornton made a promise of his own. He would not let go. Not now. Not ever. Whatever came next, they would face it together. That was what it meant to overcome whatever stood between, not to avoid the crash, not to escape the desert, but to crawl through it anyway, inch by impossible, inch toward the life you'd chosen, toward home. The fever came in waves. For 3 days, Clara Bennett existed somewhere between this world and the next, her consciousness a shore she sometimes reached and sometimes missed entirely. Dr. Wade changed her bandages twice daily, his face growing grimmer each time he unwrapped the wounds on her legs. Sam watched from the doorway, forbidden to enter during treatments, but unable to leave. Infections spreading. Wade didn't soften the truth on the second morning. The right leg especially. But what? She was lying in that canyon 4 days with open fractures. Desert dirt, her own blood, God knows what else got into those wounds. Wade washed his hands in the basin, his movements slow with exhaustion. "I can fight surface infection. Can't fight what's already in the bone." Rosie stood beside her father, her small hand finding his. She'd barely left the doctor's house, sleeping in chairs, eating whatever Mrs. Henderson brought. "What happens if you can't fight it?" Rosie asked. Wade crouched to her level. "Then Miss Clara gets very sick, little one. Sicker than she already is." And then, Wade glanced at Sam, who nodded. The child deserved truth. "Then her body has to decide if it's strong enough to heal anyway." Rosie absorbed this with a slow nod. "She's strong. She crawled for 4 days. That's real strong." "Yes, it is." Wade's eyes went suspiciously bright. "Very strong indeed." That night, Clara's fever spiked to terrifying heights. She thrashed in the bed, crying out in delirium, fragments of sentences painting pictures of the life she'd left behind. A narrow house in Boston. A sister named Sarah who'd nearly died from scarlet fever. Years of teaching other people's children while her own youth slipped away. "Had to let her go," Clara mumbled through cracked lips. "Sarah got married. Didn't need me anymore. Nobody needed me anymore." Sam sat beside her with cool cloths pressing them to her burning forehead, her wrists, her throat. Wade had shown him the technique before going home to rest. "Talk to her," Wade had said. "Sometimes they can hear us even when they can't respond. Give her something to fight for." So Sam talked. He told her about the ranch, about the creek that ran year-round even in drought, about the cabin he'd built with his own hands. He told her about Rosie's first steps, her first words the way she'd started reading at 5 years old, with a hunger that reminded him of Clara's letters. He told her about Mary. "She was gentle," Sam said quietly, his hand covering Clara's on the coverlet. "Too gentle for Wyoming, maybe. The cholera took her fast. 3 days from healthy to gone. Took our boy, too. Thomas. He was only 2. Clara's head turned slightly toward his voice. "Rosie survived somehow. Doc Wade said some folks just got stronger constitutions. But she watched her mama die. Watched me dig 2 graves in 1 afternoon." Sam's voice cracked. "I ain't been much good to her since. Too busy drowning in my own grief to see she was drowning too." Clara's fingers twitched under his. "That's why I wrote those letters. Not just for a wife. For someone who could give Rosie what I couldn't. Someone who knew how to keep living after losing everything." He tightened his grip on her hand. "You wrote that you'd spent 12 years keeping your sister alive. That you knew how to fight for people. Well, Clara Bennett, it's time to fight for yourself now. Fight your way back to us." Her hand moved. Once. Twice. squeezing his with strength that shouldn't exist in a body this broken. That's right. Sam leaned closer. You fight. You crawl if you have to, just like you did in that canyon. We'll meet you halfway. The night stretched endless. Rosie had fallen asleep on the small sofa in Wade's parlor. The town slept around them. Sam kept his vigil, changing cloths, dribbling water between Clara's lips, talking when silence felt too much like surrender. Near dawn, her breathing changed. The rapid, shallow panting eased into something deeper, more regular. Sam pressed his palm to her forehead and felt the difference immediately. Still warm, but no longer burning. The fever had broken. He sagged back in his chair relief, making his muscles liquid. She wasn't safe yet. Infection could still claim her. But she'd cleared the first terrible hurdle. Clara's eyes opened as gray light crept through the window. This time they focused on him immediately. Clear, present. You stayed. Her voice was barely a whisper, but it was hers. Where else would I be? Sensible men don't sit vigil for mail-order brides they've never met. Sensible men don't agree to marry women based on letters either. Sam allowed himself a small smile. Reckon we're both past sensible. The corner of her mouth twitched. How long? 3 days since I brought you in. 7 since the crash. Rosie? Asleep in the next room. Been here the whole time. Drove Wade half crazy asking questions about infection and bone setting. Sam's smile grew. Think she's planning on becoming a doctor. Clara's eyes filled with tears that didn't fall. My legs. Sam hesitated. Truth or comfort? Her eyes told him she wanted the former. Both broken. Multiple fractures. Wade says the left might heal clean if you're lucky. The right, he couldn't quite finish. Might not. Clara completed it for him. Might never walk right again. Yes. She was quiet for a long moment. I crawled 20 feet in 4 days. Thought I was conquering distance. A harsh sound escaped her. Turns out I barely moved at all. You moved enough. You survived. To what end? Her voice went flat. A crippled wife is a poor bargain, Mr. Thornton. Sam? What? If you're gonna insult yourself, least do me the courtesy of using my given name. Her eyes cut to him sharp, despite exhaustion. Sam, then. You contracted for a helpmate, not an invalid. I release you from any obligation. The hell you do. This isn't... You don't get to crawl through the desert to keep a promise, then quit the moment it gets hard. Sam leaned forward. That ain't how this works. This isn't hard. This is impossible. I can't run a household. Can't help with ranch work. Can't what? Can't survive 4 days with broken legs in a canyon. Can't drag yourself across rock when any sensible person would have laid down and died? Sam caught her hand. You already did impossible, Clara. Don't tell me you can't do difficult. She stared at him, something fierce flickering behind the pain in her eyes. You don't know what you're asking for. I know exactly what I'm asking for. Partnership. Someone who endures. Someone who chooses to be here even when here is hard. His thumb brushed across her knuckles. You think I care if you walk or not. I care that you kept fighting when fighting was all you had. That's the woman I want beside me. Tears tracked down Clara's temples into her hair. Hope warring with despair. Possibility wrestling fear. I wanted to arrive on time, she whispered. Wanted to step off that stage looking capable. Prove I could be what you needed. You proved it in that canyon. Everything else is just details. The door creaked. Rosie stood in the doorway, her braids disheveled, her dress wrinkled from sleeping in it. She looked at Clara with solemn evaluation, then padded across the room on bare feet. You're awake. Rosie stopped beside the bed. Papa said you might not wake up, but I knew you would. You promised to come and you came. People who keep promises don't just die. Clara's face transformed, softening in ways Sam hadn't seen, even in the depths of fever. Hello, Rosie. Hello, Miss Clara. Does it hurt real bad? Yes, but it's getting better. Good. Rosie climbed carefully onto the edge of the bed, avoiding Clara's splinted legs with practiced precision. I brought you something. She pulled a small object from her pocket. A stone smooth and gray, unremarkable, except for a perfect circle of white running through its center. It's a wishing stone, Rosie explained. You find them by the creek sometimes. Mama said if you hold it and wish real hard, it comes true. She pressed it into Clara's palm. I wished for you to get better. Now you got a wish too, so it works double. Clara's fingers closed around the stone, her throat working. What if I don't know what to wish for? Then wish for something small first, like not hurting so much, or for some of Mrs. Henderson's apple pie. Small wishes are easier. Who told you that? Nobody. I just figured it out. Rosie settled more comfortably on the bed. After Mama died, I tried wishing for big things, for her to come back, for everything to be like before. But those wishes never worked, and it made me real sad. So now I wish for small things, like sunny days, or Papa smiling more. Small wishes come true more often. Sam watched his daughter dispense wisdom. No 8-year-old should possess his heart cracking and mending in the same breath. Clara turned the stone over in her hand. All right, I'll wish for something small. What? I'll wish for a friend, someone to talk to while I'm healing. Rosie's face lit up. I can be your friend. I'm real good at talking. Papa says I could talk the ears off a mule. I'd like that very much. Good. Then that wish is already true. Rosie nodded with satisfaction. See, small wishes work better. Wade arrived an hour later to find his patient awake and arguing with Sam about the necessity of laudanum. I don't need it clouding my head. You need rest. Pain keeps you from resting. I'll manage the pain my own way. Stubborn woman. Stubborn man. Wade cleared his throat. If you two are done bickering like an old married couple, I'd like to examine my patient. Sam retreated to the doorway while Wade worked. Rosie stayed holding Clara's hand through the parts that hurt her young face set with determination. Fever's broken, Wade announced finally. First good news I've had to deliver in days. But you're not out of danger yet, Miss Bennett. The right leg concerns me. Infection could still set in deep, and even if it doesn't. He paused. The bones may not knit clean. You need to prepare yourself. I'm aware. You'll need constant care, help with everything, patience and stubbornness in equal measure. Lucky for her, we got both in abundance, Sam said from the doorway. Wade glanced between them, reading something in the air. I suppose you do at that. She can't be moved for at least a week. After that, if there's no fever recurrence, she could go to your ranch, but she'll need... Whatever she needs, we'll manage. After Wade left, Sam pulled his chair closer to Clara's bed. You should sleep. Body needs rest to heal. I've been unconscious for 3 days. I'm tired of sleeping. Clara shifted against her pillows, wincing. Tell me about the ranch. About the life I'm supposedly choosing. What do you want to know? Everything. Start with the house. So Sam told her. About the cabin he'd built 2 rooms that became 3 when Rosie came along. About the root cellar that stayed cool even in August. About the porch where Mary used to sit in the evenings watching the sun go down. There's a piano, he said. Mary's mother sent it from St. Louis. Ain't been played since she died. You kept it. Couldn't bring myself to sell it. Felt like selling her somehow. Sam rubbed the back of his neck. You mentioned in your letters you played. Taught piano in Boston. 15 years. Every proper young lady learned scales in my front parlor. Clara's mouth twisted. I was good enough to teach, never good enough to perform. Story of my life, really. Then play for yourself. No audience to judge, too. Just you and the music and whatever it makes you feel. Clara was quiet for a moment. You're not what I expected, Samuel Thornton. Neither are you, Clara Bennett. But I'm thinking that's working in our favor. The days that followed established a rhythm. Mornings, Sam returned to the ranch to handle work that couldn't wait. Rosie stayed with Clara, reading aloud from books Mrs. Henderson brought, helping with small tasks. Afternoons, Sam came back to town. He sat with Clara while Rosie napped, their conversations building bridges between the people they'd been in letters and the people they were becoming in person. "You wrote that you'd raised your sister alone," Sam said one afternoon. "What happened to your folks?" "Typhoid. I was 18, Sarah was 6. Clara's hands stilled on the coverlet. "The church wanted to put her in an orphanage. Said a girl my age couldn't possibly care for a child alone. But you did anyway." "I lied about my age. Told them I was 21. Got work as a governess, brought Sarah with me as my ward." Clara smiled grimly. "Spent 12 years making myself indispensable to families who'd otherwise have thrown us out. Learned to cook, clean, sew, teach, nurse, whatever they needed. Whatever kept us together." "What happened when Sarah grew up?" "She married a merchant from Philadelphia. Good man, loves her properly." Clara's voice went flat. "She doesn't need me anymore. Nobody did. So I answered your advertisement." "That why you came? Because you needed to be needed?" "Partly." Clara met his eyes. "But also because your letters, you wrote about Rosie like she was the center of your world. About how you'd do anything to give her a good life. And I thought—" She stopped. "Thought what?" "I thought, here's a man who understands what I understand. That love isn't just feeling. It's choosing. Every day. No matter how hard it gets." Sam absorbed this in silence. He'd spent 3 years believing no one could understand the weight of what he'd lost. But this woman, with her broken legs and fierce determination, understood it bone deep. "I wasn't a good husband to Mary," he said finally. "Loved her, but maybe not the way she needed. She was gentle, and I was always working. Always focused on the next thing that needed doing instead of the person right in front of me. You regret it. Every damn day. Then don't make the same mistake twice." Clara's hand found his. "I don't need gentle Sam. I need honest. I need someone who'll tell me when I'm being stubborn for the wrong reasons. Someone who'll fight with me instead of around me." "That I can do." "Good. Then we might just survive this after all." By the end of the first week, Clara could sit propped up without dizziness. By the second, she was staying awake for hours at a stretch, her body slowly reclaiming ground the fever had stolen. But the right leg remained a problem. "Infection's beaten back for now," Wade said on day 10. "But the bone's not setting the way I'd like. Even after it heals, she's looking at permanent damage, a limp at minimum, possibly worse. She'll walk through. Maybe, with assistance. Maybe not at all on that leg." Wade's voice softened. "You should prepare her, Sam, and yourself." That night, after Rosie had fallen asleep, Sam sat beside Clara in the lamplight. "Wade told you." It wasn't a question. Clara had always been too observant for her own good. "Yeah. And what? And are you reconsidering a wife who might not walk isn't much use on a ranch? You keep saying that. Use, value. Like you're a tool instead of a person." Sam's voice sharpened. "What happened to you, Clara? Who taught you that's all you were worth?" She flinched like he'd struck her. "Everyone. My whole life. Be useful or be discarded. That's how the world works." "Not my world. Sam. My world, a person's worth is measured by their word, by how they treat folks who can't do nothing for them, by whether they quit when quitting would be easier." He caught her chin, turning her face toward him. "You crawled for 4 days on broken legs because you gave your word. That's worth more to me than 1,000 able-bodied wives who'd have laid down and died." Clara's eyes glistened. "You mean that?" "I ain't in the habit of saying things I don't mean." "I'm scared." The admission came out small. "I've never been scared before. Never had the luxury for it." But lying here not knowing if I'll ever walk again, not knowing if I can be what you need, then be scared, be terrified, but don't you dare give up." Sam's hand moved to cup her face. "We didn't come this far to quit now. You didn't crawl through hell to stop fighting in a clean bed." "How do you do that?" "Do what?" "Make impossible things sound possible. Make me believe I can actually—" He kissed her. It wasn't planned, wasn't calculated. One moment they were talking, the next, his lips were on hers, soft and questioning. She tasted like fear and hope and the medicine Wade had been giving her. She kissed him back. When they broke apart, Clara's eyes were wide. "That wasn't, we haven't even—" "No, we haven't." Sam's thumb traced her cheekbone. "Should I apologize?" "No." Her hand came up to cover his. "But you should probably do it again, for practice." He laughed, a sound that surprised him with its genuineness, and obliged. The door banged open. "Papa? Miss Clara! There's a man outside asking questions." Rosie burst into the room. Biscuit at her heels, both of them breathing hard from running. Sam was on his feet instantly. "What kind of questions?" "About Miss Clara. About where she came from and why she's here, and whether she's really hurt or just pretending." Clara had gone pale. "What did he look like?" "Fancy clothes, shiny boots, talked like he had a stick up his or Rosie. Nose, like he thought he was better than everybody." The girl's face scrunched with dislike. "I didn't like him, Papa. Neither did Biscuit." Clara's hand gripped Sam's arm with surprising strength. "Howard! Oh God, it's Howard!" "Who?" "Judge Howard Price, from Boston." Clara's voice had gone thin with something that sounded like fear. We were engaged. Before." The world tilted slightly. "Engaged? It was years ago. He courted me when I was 20 before my parents died. His family didn't approve of the match. I wasn't wealthy enough, connected enough. He broke it off. Found someone more suitable." Clara was speaking fast now, the words tumbling out. "But his wife died last year, and he decided he wanted me again. Said we could finally be together now that there were no obstacles." "And you said no." "I said no, many times. He didn't believe me. Kept insisting I was playing hard to get, that I owed him for the humiliation I caused, when he had to explain why our engagement ended." Clara's grip on his arm tightened. "That's part of why I answered your advertisement, Sam. To get away from him. To go somewhere he couldn't follow." "But he followed anyway." "He has money, influence, the kind of man who doesn't hear the word no." Clara's eyes met his, and he saw real terror there. "If he's here, if he's found me, he won't stop. He never stops." Sam turned to Rosie. "Where is he now?" "Talking to Mr. Henderson at the store, asking if anyone knows where the mail-order bride is staying. Henderson won't tell him nothing. He was offering money, Papa, a lot of it." Sam's jaw tightened. Money could loosen a lot of tongues in a town like Clearwater. "Stay here with Clara," he told Rosie. "Don't let anyone in except me or Dr. Wade. Understand?" "Yes, Papa." "Clara." He turned back to her. "Whatever this man wants, he ain't getting it. You hear me? You made your choice. You chose this. You chose us. And I ain't in the habit of letting anyone take what's mine." "I'm not yours, Sam. We're not even married yet." "No, but you will be." He kissed her forehead hard and quick. "Soon as you can stand for the ceremony, you'll be Clara Thornton. And then let's see this fancy judge try to claim what belongs to someone else." He grabbed his hat and headed for the door. "Sam." He turned. Clara's face had shifted, the fear still there, but joined now by something else. Something that looked almost like hope. "Be careful. Howard is dangerous. Not with fists. With words. With influence. With the law. I can handle words. Can you handle a man who believes he's entitled to whatever he wants? Who's never been told no in his entire privileged life? Sam's hand rested on the doorframe. Reckon he's about to learn. He found Judge Howard Price at the general store, a well-dressed man surrounded by several townspeople who'd been drawn by the spectacle of Eastern money and refined speech. "Understand there was a stagecoach accident," the man was saying. "A woman from Boston traveling alone. I'm her fiancé, you see, and I've been desperately worried." "That's so." Sam stepped into the circle, his presence scattering the curious onlookers. "Funny, she never mentioned a fiancé. Not in any of her letters. Not in all the conversations we've had since she arrived." Price turned slowly, assessing Sam with eyes that had clearly expected something different. Something less substantial. Something easier to dismiss. "You must be the rancher." Price's smile didn't reach his eyes. "The one who's been taking advantage of a vulnerable woman's compromised state. That what I'm doing?" "Clara is confused. Injured. Making decisions she'll regret once she's properly recovered." Price stepped forward, his voice pitched to Carrie. "I've known her since she was a girl. We have an understanding. Whatever fantasies she's entertained about starting over out here, they end now. Seems to me Clara's made her understanding pretty clear." Sam didn't move, didn't raise his voice. "She came here to marry me, still intends to, soon as she's healed enough." "She can't marry you. She's already promised to me." "That ain't what she says." "Then she's lying." Price's mask slipped, something ugly flashing beneath. "Or you've coerced her somehow. Either way, I'm taking her back to Boston where she belongs." The store had gone silent. Every eye fixed on the two men facing each other across the rough plank floor. Sam let the silence stretch. When he spoke, his voice carried the quiet certainty of a man who'd learned long ago that actions mattered more than words. "Let me explain something to you, Judge. Clara Bennett crawled for 4 days through that desert with 2 broken legs because she gave her word she'd be here. 4 days. In summer heat, that would have killed most men. She didn't quit, didn't give up, didn't break her promise, even when breaking it would have been the easiest thing in the world." He took one step closer to Price. "That woman chose this life, chose me, chose my daughter. And if you think some fancy clothes and Eastern money give you the right to take that choice away from her, you're about to learn different." Price's face mottled red. "How dare you?" "I ain't finished." Sam's voice went soft. "Dangerous. You got 2 options, Judge. You can accept that Clara made her decision and leave peaceable. Or you can keep pushing and find out exactly how we handle men who can't take no for an answer out here in Wyoming." "Is that a threat?" "It's a fact." Sam turned to leave, then paused. "Oh, and Judge, stay away from Dr. Wade's house. You come near Clara again without her permission, and this conversation's gonna feel real friendly by comparison." He walked out without looking back. Behind him he heard Price's voice, pitched higher now with frustration and wounded pride. "This isn't over, rancher. This isn't over by a long shot." Sam kept walking. It wasn't over. He knew that. Men like Price didn't accept defeat gracefully. They schemed. They maneuvered. They used money and influence to get what raw strength couldn't provide. But Clara had made her choice. She'd crawled through hell to make it. And Sam would be damned if he let anyone take that away from her. When he got back to Wade's house, Clara was sitting up in bed, Rosie beside her, both of them tense with waiting. "Well?" Clara asked. "He's not happy." "No, he wouldn't be." Clara's hands twisted in the bedsheet. "What now?" Sam crossed to the bed, sat on the edge, and took both her hands in his. "Now we get you healed. Get you to the ranch. Get you married, legal and proper and witnessed." He squeezed her fingers. "And then let Judge Howard Price try to take you from your own home, your own family." "It won't be that simple. Nothing worth having ever is." Sam glanced at Rosie, who was watching them with fierce attention. "But we got something he doesn't." "What's that?" Rosie answered before Sam could each other. Clara's eyes filled. She pulled one hand free to touch Rosie's face, then Sam's. "Each other," she repeated softly. "Yes, I suppose we do." Outside, the summer evening settled into dusk. Somewhere in town, a man with money and power was plotting his next move. But in this small room, 3 people held tight to the choice they'd made. Whatever came next, they'd face it together. That was the only certainty any of them needed. Judge Price didn't leave Clearwater. He took a room at the boarding house, made himself comfortable, and started spending money in ways that made people notice. Bought drinks at the saloon, donated to the church building fund, chatted with merchants about the challenges of running businesses in such a remote territory. "He's buying the town," Clara said on the 3rd day of his presence, her voice tight with anger. "That's what he does. Buys people until they owe him. Folks around here ain't for sale." "Everyone's for sale, Sam. The price just varies." She wasn't wrong. By the end of the first week, Sam noticed changes. Henderson avoided his eyes at the general store. Mrs. Patterson, who usually gossiped freely, went quiet when he approached. Even Wade seemed uncomfortable, though he still came daily to check Clara's progress. "What's he telling people?" Sam asked during one of Wade's visits. Wade hesitated. That Clara's confused, that the accident damaged her mind, that she doesn't know what she's agreeing to. "And people believe that." "Some do. Price is convincing, educated, speaks well." Wade sighed. "And he's got papers, Sam. Legal documents. Says Clara signed a marriage contract before she left Boston." Clara's sharp intake of breath drew both men's attention. "That's a lie." Her voice shook with fury. "I never signed anything. He's forged it." "Can you prove that?" Wade asked gently. Clara stopped. "No, I can't prove what doesn't exist." "But he can produce what does." Sam's jaw tightened. "Even if it's fake." "Exactly." Clara pushed herself higher against her pillows, wincing at the movement. "That's how Howard operates. He doesn't lie outright. He creates truth. Manufactures evidence. By the time you realize what he's done, it's too late to fight it." "This ain't Boston," Sam said. "We do things different here." "Do you?" "When he's got money, and papers, and respectable appearance, and all you've got is the word of a crippled woman nobody knows." Clara's voice cracked. "Sam, I've seen him destroy people. Businessmen who refuse to sell to him. Women who turn down his proposals. He ruins them quietly, methodically, until they have nothing left. Then we don't give him time to be methodical." "What do you mean?" "Wade." Sam turned to the doctor. "She well enough to travel. Physically, barely. The jostling could. She stays here. Price has access. Has witnesses who'll swear she said whatever he needs her to say. Has time to build his case." Sam's mind raced. "But if she's at the ranch, she's on my land. My property. He can't touch her without going through me first." "Moving her now is risky," Wade warned. "Leaving her here is riskier." Sam looked at Clara. "Your choice. You want to stay where it's safe for your body, but dangerous for your future. Or you want to take a chance on healing at the ranch where I can protect you." Clara didn't hesitate. "The ranch. Get me out of here before he finds some new way to trap me." They moved her that same afternoon. Sam borrowed Henderson's freight wagon, lined it with every blanket and quilt available, and drove to Wade's house under cover of the siesta hour, when most of the town was resting through the worst of the summer heat. The transfer from bed to wagon was brutal. Clara bit through her lip to keep from screaming blood mixing with sweat on her chin. Rosie held her hand through the worst of it, her small face pale but determined. "Almost there, Miss Clara. Almost there." "I know, sweetheart, I know." The journey to the ranch took 4 hours. 4 hours of careful navigation around every rut and rock. 4 hours of Clara drifting in and out of consciousness as pain and exhaustion fought for dominance. By the time they reached the cabin, the sun was setting and Clara was barely responsive. Sam carried her inside, laid her on the bed that had been Mary's, and stood over her with his heart pounding against his ribs. "Papa," Rosie's voice came from the doorway, small and scared. "Is she gonna be okay?" "She's gonna be fine." Sam said it like he believed it, because Rosie needed him to believe it, even when fear clawed at his chest. "She just needs rest. Real rest in a real home where nobody's gonna bother her." Clara's eyes fluttered open. "Sam, I'm here. We made it. We made it." Her hand found his gripping weakly. "Don't let him take me. Promise me. Whatever happens, don't let him. I promise." Sam pressed his lips to her knuckles. "You're home now, Clara. This is where you stay." She slept for 18 hours straight. When she woke, the first thing she saw was Rosie sitting in a chair beside the bed, reading aloud from a book of fairy tales. The second thing she saw was Sam in the doorway, a cup of coffee in his hands, watching both of them with an expression that made her heart clench. And the princess said she'd rather live in a cottage with someone who loved her than a palace with someone who only wanted to own her. Rosie looked up. "Oh, you're awake." "I am." Clara's voice came out rusty. "How long?" "Since yesterday afternoon. Papa's been pacing like a caged animal." Rosie grinned. "He wore a path in the floor." "Did not," Sam said, but his relief was palpable as he crossed to the bed. "How you feeling?" "Like I was trampled by a horse." Clara tried to push herself upright and failed. "But alive, still alive." "Still alive." Sam helped her sit up, arranging pillows behind her back. "Wade said you might sleep through tomorrow too. Said your body's been running on willpower for weeks and finally decided to collect the debt." "Dr. Wade was here. Came out this morning to check on you. Said he'd be back tomorrow." Sam handed her the coffee. "Also said Judge Price is furious. Went to his house yesterday afternoon and found you gone. Made quite a scene." Clara's hands trembled on the cup. "What kind of scene?" "The kind where he threatened to have Wade's medical license revoked for helping kidnap a patient." Sam's voice was grim. "Wade told him to go ahead and try. Said any doctor who'd turn over a woman to a man she was fleeing didn't deserve the profession. Wade said that Wade's good people. Most folks around here are." Sam sat on the edge of the bed. "Price is making noise about getting the sheriff involved, claiming I abducted you under false pretenses. That's absurd. Maybe, but absurd claims backed by money still cause problems." Clara set down the cup, her appetite gone. "I should leave. Go somewhere else. California maybe, or—" "You're not going anywhere." "Sam, I can't let you—" "You're not letting me do anything." Sam's hand caught her chin, turning her face toward his. "This is me choosing. Same as you chose when you crawled through that desert. I'm choosing to fight for you, for us, for this family we're building." "It's not your fight." "The hell it isn't." His eyes blazed. "You came here to marry me. You nearly died to keep that promise. You think I'm gonna let some fancy Eastern judge scare me off now? He'll ruin you. He'll take everything." "He can try." Sam's jaw set. "But I've got something he doesn't understand. Something men like him never understand." "What?" "Roots." Sam gestured around the cabin. "This land, this house, my grandfather broke ground here. My father built on what he started. I've got neighbors who've known me since I was born. Got a daughter who needs to see her father stand for something. Got a woman who crossed a continent to be here." His voice softened. "Price has money. I've got community. Let's see which one matters more when it comes down to it." Clara's eyes filled. "You really believe that?" "I've seen it proven. When Mary died when the cholera took her and Thomas, I wanted to die too. Would have let the ranch fall apart, let everything go. But folks came. Henderson fixed my fences while I was digging graves. The Pattersons brought food for weeks. Wade came by every day not to doctor me but just to sit." Sam's thumb traced her cheekbone. "That's what community means, Clara. It's people showing up when showing up is hard. Price can buy acquaintances. He can't buy that. I've never had that. Clara's voice came out small. Community. People who show up. You've got it now. The days settled into patterns. Clara's strength grew incrementally. By the end of the first week at the ranch, she could sit upright for hours. By the second, she was taking her first assisted steps, her right leg dragging but bearing weight. Rosie appointed herself nurse teacher and entertainment committee. She read to Clara for hours. Showed her how to play cat's cradle with string. Brought her wildflowers from the creek drawings she'd made rocks with interesting patterns. This one looks like a heart. Rosie announced one morning, presenting a red stone with a vaguely cardiac shape. I found it by the big cottonwood. It's for you. For me. Because you're going to be my new mama. Rosie said it matter-of-factly, as if it were already decided. And mamas get love rocks. That's what Papa gave my first mama when I was a baby. So now I'm giving you one. Clara turned the stone over in her hands, her throat tight. Rosie, I might not. I mean, if Judge Price is mean and stupid and his face looks like a squashed potato. Rosie's loyalty was absolute. Papa says we don't let mean, stupid people tell us what to do. So you're staying, and you're gonna be my mama, and that's final. Clara laughed despite herself. Is that so? That's so. Rosie climbed onto the bed, careful of Clara's legs. Can I ask you something? Anything. Did you love your sister, the one you took care of? Very much. Do you think she loved you back? Clara considered the question. I think she did, in her way. But she left anyway, got married and went away. That's what people do, sweetheart. They grow up and build their own lives. But you didn't have your own life. Rosie's dark eyes were too knowing. You had her life. You gave her everything, and then she left and you had nothing. The insight struck like a blow. Clara opened her mouth to deny it, then stopped. Children saw truths adults learned to hide from themselves. Yes, she admitted. I suppose that's true. That's sad. It was. But it's different now, right? Rosie pressed. Because you're building your own life, with Papa and me. And this time you're choosing for yourself, not just taking care of someone else. Yes. Clara pulled the girl close. This time I'm choosing for myself. Good. Rosie snuggled against her side. Because I choose you too, and so does Papa. And choices are better when everybody makes them together. Sam found them like that when he came in for dinner, Clara propped against pillows, Rosie tucked against her side, both of them asleep in the afternoon warmth. He stood in the doorway for a long moment, watching them breathe, letting the sight settle into his heart. This was what he'd been afraid to want. What he'd convinced himself he couldn't have again after Mary. A woman in his bed. A child with a mother. A family that was more than just two people surviving together. Clara's eyes opened, finding him watching. Hey, she said softly. Hey yourself. How long have you been standing there? Long enough. Sam crossed to the bed, careful not to wake Rosie. Wade came by the south pasture, wanted to tell me something away from little ears. Clara tensed. What? Price filed papers in Cheyenne, claiming you're mentally incompetent, that the accident damaged your brain and you can't make legal decisions for yourself. That's... Clara's face drained of color. He's trying to have me declared insane. Trying. Hasn't succeeded yet. But if he does, he can petition to be your guardian. Can take you back to Boston, marry you, do whatever he wants. Oh God. Clara's hand found her mouth. Oh God, Sam, if he won't. You don't know that. If he gets a judge to agree, then we get married first. Sam said it calmly, like he was discussing crop rotation. Tomorrow. Tonight, if we can get Reverend Gray out here. Married woman's got different legal standing than a spinster. Husband's got rights a stranger doesn't. Clara stared at him. You'd do that, marry me now like this just to block him legally. I'd marry you now like this because I want to. Sam's hand found hers. Legal protection's just a bonus. You think I've been waiting because I wasn't sure. I've been waiting because I wanted you strong enough to stand for the ceremony. But if standing's gonna cost us everything, we do it sitting down. Sam, I love you. The words came out rough, unpracticed. Didn't plan to. Wasn't looking for it. But somewhere between finding you in that canyon and watching you fight your way back to life, I fell in love with you. The stubborn, scared, fierce, impossible woman who refused to break her promise even when breaking it would have been easier. Clara's eyes overflowed. I love you too. I've been afraid to say it. Afraid it would jinx everything. Then we're both fools. Sam leaned in, kissed her gently. Marry me, Clara Bennett. Not because you're running from something, but because you're running toward something. Toward me. Toward Rosie. Toward the life we're gonna build together. Yes. Clara laughed through her tears. Yes, I'll marry you. Tonight, tomorrow, whenever you can arrange it. Then I better go find the Reverend. He rode to town in the gathering dusk, his heart lighter than it had been in years. Reverend Gray listened to his request with raised eyebrows, but no judgment. You're certain about this Sam marriage is a lifetime commitment. I'm certain. And Miss Bennett? She's in her right mind despite what Judge Price claims. Sharp as a tack, sharper than me most days. Sam's mouth quirked. She's also stubborn as a mule and twice as ornery. Reckon that's why I love her. Gray smiled. Then I'll be at your ranch first thing tomorrow morning. Best to do this proper with witnesses. Witnesses might be a problem. Price has got half the town spooked. Then we'll find the half that isn't. Gray's voice firmed. I've known you your whole life, Sam Thornton. Baptized you, married you to Mary, buried her and your boy. I know the kind of man you are, and I've seen enough of Judge Price to know the kind of man he is. Character matters more than money in God's eyes. Sam clasped the Reverend's hand. Thank you. Don't thank me yet. Thank me after I've said the words that make her yours. Sam rode home under a sky thick with stars, hope rising in his chest for the first time in longer than he could remember. He found Clara awake when he returned, Rosie still sleeping beside her. Tomorrow morning, he said. Gray's coming out with witnesses. Who? Wade for certain. Maybe the Hendersons if they've got the courage. Sam sat on the edge of the bed. Might be a small wedding. I don't need big. Clara's hand found his. I just need you. They sat together in the darkness, listening to Rosie's soft breathing, to the night sounds of the ranch around them. Tell me about Mary, Clara said eventually. I want to know her, not as competition, as the woman who came before me. You sure? I'm going to sleep in her bed, raise her daughter, live in the house she built. I should know who she was. So Sam told her. About meeting Mary at a church social when they were both 16. About courting her for 2 years before her father agreed to the match. About building this cabin together, board by board, their dreams taking shape with every nail he drove. She was gentle, he said. Too gentle for this place, maybe. The isolation got to her. The winters. The constant work with never enough hands. His voice roughened. She used to sing while she worked, old hymns mostly. Sometimes I still hear them. Think I'm going crazy for a second before I remember. That's not crazy. That's love. Is it? Sometimes I wonder if I loved her right. Loved her enough. She was lonely out here and I was always working. Always focused on the next thing that needed doing instead of, stop. Clara's voice cut through his guilt. You can't retroactively fix the past, Sam. All you can do is learn from it. What do you think I should learn? That presence matters more than provision. That being here, really here, is worth more than all the fences you can fix or cattle you can raise. Clara squeezed his hand. I spent 12 years being useful, being indispensable. But I wasn't present for my own life. I was always performing for someone else's approval. And now? Now I want to be present. Here, with you. Not useful, not indispensable, just here. Sam turned her hand over, pressed a kiss to her palm. That's what I want too, for both of us to just be here, together. Then that's what we'll do. Morning came too fast and not fast enough. Clara woke to Rosie's excited voice. It's your wedding day. Wake up, it's your wedding day. Sam had already been up for hours doing chores that couldn't wait, cleaning himself up as best he could. He wore his only good shirt, the one Mary had made him before she died. Is this strange? He asked Clara when he came to help her dress. Wearing a dead woman's gift to marry another? No. Clara touched the careful stitching on his collar. It's honoring what was while embracing what is. Wade arrived first, his medical bag in hand. Thought I'd better check my patient before she becomes a bride. I'm fine. Let me be the judge of that. Wade examined her legs, took her pulse, looked into her eyes. You're not fine, but you're improving. Try not to stand for too long during the ceremony. I'll stand for as long as it takes. Gray came next, his Bible under his arm, his face grave with the weight of the occasion. Behind him came Mrs. Henderson, defiant despite her husband's absence. James was too scared to come, she said bluntly. Afraid of what Price might do. But I told him Clara Bennett crawled through a desert to get here, and if she can do that, I can certainly walk across a valley to watch her marry. Thank you, Clara said, her voice thick. You don't know what this means. I know exactly what it means. Mrs. Henderson squeezed her hand. Now let's get you married before that snake Price finds a way to stop it. The ceremony was brief, simple, perfect. Clara sat in a chair by the window, sunshine streaming across her face. Sam stood beside her, his hand in hers. Rosie pressed close, serving as both flower girl and ring bearer. Dearly beloved, Gray began, we are gathered here. The words washed over Clara, ancient and familiar and new all at once. She'd imagined this moment so many times, always in a grand church, always in a white dress, always with a man who'd been chosen for her rather than by her. This was nothing like those imaginings. This was better. Do you, Samuel Thornton, take this woman? I do. Do you, Clara Bennett, take this man? I do. Then by the power vested in me by God and the territory of Wyoming, I pronounce you husband and wife. Gray smiled. You may kiss your bride. Sam knelt beside her chair and kissed her gently, thoroughly, as if they had all the time in the world. Mrs. Thornton, he said when they broke apart. Mr. Thornton, she replied and smiled. Rosie launched herself at both of them. You're my mama now. Really, truly my mama. Really, truly. Clara agreed, pulling the girl close. For the rest of our lives. The celebration was small coffee and cake. Mrs. Henderson had brought laughter and congratulations. A brief moment of joy amid the larger storm. It ended with the sound of hoofbeats. Judge Price rode up the valley road with two men beside him, men who wore badges. Marshals, Wade said, his face going pale. Territorial marshals. Sam moved to the doorway, putting himself between the approaching men and his new bride. Stay inside. Sam. Stay inside, Clara. Price dismounted with his usual practiced grace. The marshals flanked him, their faces impassive. Samuel Thornton. Price's voice dripped with false regret. I hoped it wouldn't come to this. Then turn around and ride out. I'm afraid I can't do that. Price produced a document from his coat. I have here a court order declaring Clara Bennett mentally incompetent and naming me as her legal guardian. These marshals are here to enforce it. Clara Thornton. Sam's voice didn't waver. She's Clara Thornton now. We were married an hour ago. Price's expression flickered surprise, then fury, then cold calculation. An invalid marriage. She lacks the mental capacity to consent. She seemed plenty capable when she said, I do. A ceremony performed after competency was challenged is automatically suspect. Price stepped forward. The marshals have orders to take her into custody until the matter can be settled in court. Over my dead body. That can be arranged. The air went thick with tension. Sam felt the weight of the rifle. He wasn't carrying the knife he'd left inside. He'd been so focused on the ceremony, he'd forgotten to arm himself. Gentlemen. Reverend Gray stepped onto the porch, his Bible still in hand. I've just performed a legally binding marriage. Miss Bennett. Mrs. Thornton spoke her vows clearly and coherently. I'm prepared to testify to that in any court. As am I, Wade added, moving to stand beside him. Clara Thornton is my patient. Her mind is completely intact. Judge Price's claims are baseless. You're both biased parties, Price said dismissively. Friends of the accused kidnapper. And you're a jilted suitor who can't accept rejection. Mrs. Henderson joined the line on the porch. Everyone in Clearwater knows it. You've been throwing money around trying to buy friends, but you can't buy respect. Can't buy loyalty. One of the marshals shifted uncomfortably. Judge Price, maybe we should wait for the territorial judge to rule before. The order is valid. Price's composure cracked. She's mentally incompetent. She belongs to me. I belong to no one. Clara appeared in the doorway, leaning heavily on the frame but standing on her own feet through sheer force of will. I am Clara Thornton, wife of Samuel Thornton, stepmother to Rosalind Thornton. I am in full possession of my faculties. I remember every moment of crawling through that desert. I remember every word of every letter Sam and I exchanged. I remember choosing this life, this man, this family. Her voice strengthened. And I remember you, Howard. I remember every threat you made, every promise you broke, every attempt to make me feel like property instead of a person. Clara, you don't know what you're saying. I know exactly what I'm saying. I'm saying no. I said it in Boston and you didn't listen. I said it through months of your letters demanding I reconsider. I said it when I boarded a stage bound for Wyoming. I'm saying it now for the last time. She stepped forward out of the doorway onto the porch. Her right leg nearly buckled, but Sam was there, his arm around her waist holding her upright. No, Howard. I don't love you. I never loved you. And no court order, no marshals, no amount of money will change that. Go home. Find someone who actually wants you, because I never will. Silence fell. The marshals exchanged glances. One of them cleared his throat. Ma'am, you seem pretty clear-headed to me. Judge Price, this order was issued based on claims of mental incapacity. What I'm seeing here is a woman who knows exactly what she wants and who she wants it with. She's deceiving you. Can't you see? What I see is a man who won't take no for an answer. The marshal's voice went hard. And in my experience, that kind of man is usually the problem, not the solution. I'll have your badge for this. You're welcome to try. The marshal remounted his horse. But I'd recommend heading back to Boston, Judge. Wyoming doesn't take kindly to men who harass women, especially married women with husbands who look ready to put you in the ground. Price's face went purple with rage. He looked from Sam to Clara to the witnesses on the porch, seeing his careful plans crumble. This isn't over, he spat. Yes, it is. Clara's voice was steady. Goodbye, Howard. She turned her back on him, literally turned away, dismissing him, rendering him invisible. Sam helped her back inside. The door closed. Outside, they heard Price's voice raised in impotent fury, the marshal's calm refusals, the sounds of horses eventually moving away. Only when the hoofbeats faded completely did Clara allow herself to collapse against Sam's chest. Is it over? She whispered. Is it really over? It's over. Sam held her tight. He's gone, Clara. You're safe. I'm home. Her voice cracked. I'm finally home. Rosie squirmed between them, hugging them both. That was amazing, Mama. You were so brave. And Papa looked so scary, and Mrs. Henderson called Judge Price a snake. Clara laughed through her tears. She did, didn't she? The best part is, now you're really married and nobody can change that ever. Rosie beamed. We're a family. A real, true, forever family. Sam looked at his daughter, at his wife, at the small cabin that had seen so much grief and was finally seeing joy again. "Yeah, little bird," he said softly. "We are." Outside, the summer sun blazed over the Wyoming Valley. The creek ran silver through green pastures. The world continued its relentless turning. But in this house, 3 people held tight to what they'd built from wreckage and will. A family forged in fire. A love proven by choice. A promise kept against all odds. And it was only the beginning. The first morning of married life began with Clara falling out of bed. She'd tried to get up alone, unwilling to wake Sam, and her right leg had buckled the moment weight hit it. She crashed to the floor with a thud that brought Sam bolt upright and Rosie running from the next room. "Clara!" Sam was beside her in seconds. "What happened? Are you hurt?" "Just my pride." Clara's face burned with humiliation. "I thought I wanted to." "You wanted to prove you could do it yourself." Sam's voice softened as he lifted her back onto the bed. "I know. But healing doesn't work on your timetable, darlin'. It works on its own." "I hate this." The words came out fiercer than she intended. "I hate being helpless. Hate needing to be carried and lifted and—" "You ain't helpless." Sam sat beside her, his hand finding hers. "You're healing. There's a difference." "Is there?" "Helpless is giving up. Helpless is laying in that canyon waiting to die." His thumb traced circles on her palm. "You didn't do that. You crawled. And now you're going to learn to walk again one step at a time. But you gotta let us help you get there." Rosie appeared in the doorway with a cup of water. "I heard the crash. Are you okay, Mama?" "Mama." The word still sent warmth flooding through Clara's chest every time she heard it. "I'm fine, sweetheart. Just impatient." "Papa says impatience is the enemy of good sense." Rosie handed over the water with solemn care. "He says it when I want to ride faster than my horse can go safe." "Your papa's a wise man." "Sometimes." Rosie grinned. "Other times he's stubborn as a mule." "Wonder where you learned that," Sam muttered, but he was smiling. The days found their rhythm. Mornings, Sam worked the ranch while Clara and Rosie managed the household. Clara couldn't do much physically, but she could direct organizing the pantry, planning meals, teaching Rosie lessons at the kitchen table. "You're better at arithmetic than my old teacher," Rosie said one morning, working through sums Clara had written out. "She just made us memorize. You explain why." Understanding the why helps you remember the how. "Is that what you told the children you taught in Boston?" "Some of them." Clara's mouth twisted. "The ones whose parents wanted them educated, not just occupied." "What's the difference?" "Educated means learning to think. Occupied means learning to sit still." Clara tapped Rosie's paper. "Which do you want to be?" "Educated, definitely." Rosie bent back to her work with renewed focus. Afternoons belonged to walking practice. Wade had fashioned a crude crutch from a branch padded at the top with wrapped cloth. Clara used it to take halting steps around the cabin, Sam hovering nearby in case she fell. "Stop watching me like I'm gonna break," she snapped on the 3rd day. "You might. Then I'll pick up the pieces and try again." Clara gritted her teeth and took another step. "That's what I've been doing my whole life." "I know. That's what scares me." She stopped, turning awkwardly to face him. "What does that mean?" "Means you're so used to pushing through pain alone, you don't know how to let someone help." Sam crossed his arms. "You think accepting help is weakness, but it ain't, Clara. It's trust." "I trust you." "Do you? Because every time I reach out to steady you, you flinch away. Every time I offer to carry something, you insist on doing it yourself. That ain't trust. That's habit." Clara opened her mouth to argue, then closed it. He was right. Damn him, he was right. "I don't know how to be any different," she admitted. "I've been taking care of myself since I was 18. Taking care of Sarah before that." Nobody ever, her voice cracked. Nobody ever took care of me. Sam closed the distance between them, his hands finding her shoulders. I want to, if you'll let me. What if I don't know how? Then we learn together. He kissed her forehead. Same as everything else. That night, lying in the darkness with Sam's warmth beside her, Clara allowed herself to cry. Not from pain, though there was plenty of that. Not from fear, though. Judge Price's shadow still lingered at the edges of her mind. From release. From the overwhelming strangeness of being held when she'd spent so long holding herself. Hey! Sam's voice came soft through the darkness. What's wrong? Nothing. Clara wiped her eyes. Everything. I don't know. That's real specific. A laugh bubbled up through the tears. I'm not used to this. Crying? Being happy. Clara rolled to face him, though she couldn't see his features in the dark. I kept waiting for something to go wrong. For you to change your mind. For the Marshalls to come back. For this whole life to dissolve like a dream. It ain't a dream. I know. That's what's making me cry. She reached out, found his face trace the stubbled line of his jaw. Sam, I spent 34 years surviving. Just surviving. Not living. Not hoping. Not dreaming. Just getting through each day to the next one. And now I have something to lose, and that's terrifying. Sam pulled her closer, tucking her head under his chin. I know, lost Mary, lost Thomas. Thought I'd never let myself care that much again because losing hurt too bad. His arms tightened. But then you showed up, crawling through a desert to keep a promise. And I realized not caring doesn't protect you from pain. It just means you suffer alone. So we suffer together. We do everything together. That's what marriage means. Clara pressed her face against his chest, breathing in the scent of him. Sweat and sage, and something uniquely Sam. I love you. I love you too. His hand stroked her hair. Now sleep, Mrs. Thornton. Tomorrow's gonna be a long day. Why? Because tomorrow you're gonna walk to the porch, and I'm gonna watch you do it without helping even though it'll kill me. Because you need to know you can. Clara smiled against his shirt. Stubborn man. Stubborn woman. Perfect match then. Yeah. Sam's voice went soft with something that might have been wonder. I reckon we are. The next morning, Clara walked to the porch. It took 20 minutes. Every step sent fire through her right leg. 3 times she nearly fell, catching herself on the wall on a chair on sheer determination. Sam stood by the door, his hands fisted at his sides, visibly stopping himself from rushing to help. But she made it. She stood on the porch, gripping the railing, looking out at the land that was now her home. The creek glittered in the morning light. The horses moved lazily in the corral. Somewhere Rosie was singing while she collected eggs. I did it. Clara's voice came out wondering. I actually did it. Never doubted you for a second. Liar. But she was smiling. You doubted me plenty. Doubted myself. Never you. Sam joined her on the porch, his arm circling her waist. Wade said you might never walk again. Said to prepare for the worst. Wade doesn't know me. No, but I'm starting to. Sam pressed a kiss to her temple. You're the most stubborn, infuriating, magnificent woman I've ever met. And I'm glad you're mine. I'm not yours. Clara turned in his arms facing him. I'm my own. I choose to be with you. That's different. Is it? Yes. Her hand came up to rest on his chest. Belonging to someone means they can discard you when you're no longer useful. Choosing someone means you stay because you want to, not because you have to. Sam's expression shifted, understanding dawning. That's what Price wanted, for you to belong to him. That's what everyone wanted. My parents, the families I worked for, everyone who saw me as useful instead of valuable. Clara's voice hardened. I spent my whole life being kept like a good tool, well maintained, properly stored, brought out when needed, and put away when not. And now I'm choosing my own shelf. Clara's smile turned fierce. And I'm choosing to stay there because I want to, not because someone put me there. Sam laughed, the sound warm and genuine. You know what I think I understand. Do you? Yeah. He kissed her properly this time, long and slow. You're not my wife because you belong to me. You're my wife because you picked me. Out of everyone you could have chosen, you picked an ornery Wyoming rancher with a dead wife and a grieving daughter and a ranch that barely breaks even most years. I picked a man who searched beyond hope, who sat with me through fever, who stood between me and a judge who wanted to own me. Clara's hands fisted in his shirt. I picked the only person who's ever looked at me like I was worth fighting for. You are worth fighting for. I'm starting to believe that. Rosie came running around the corner of the cabin egg basket swinging. Mama, you're on the porch. You walked all the way to the porch. I did. That's amazing. Rosie bounded up the steps, careful not to jostle Clara. Can you walk to the creek tomorrow? I want to show you where the best frogs are. Maybe not tomorrow, but soon. How soon? Clara looked at Sam, saw her own determination reflected in his eyes. As soon as I can. The summer deepened around them. Clara's walking improved day by day, first to the porch, then to the well, then on a triumphant afternoon in late August, all the way to the creek, with Rosie dancing ahead. This is my favorite spot. Rosie pointed to a bend where the water pooled deep and slow. Mama used to bring me here. My first mama, I mean. She paused. Is it okay to talk about her? Clara lowered herself carefully onto a flat rock. Of course it is. Papa doesn't like to. He gets sad. That's because he loved her very much. Talking about people we love and lose can be painful. But you're not sad when I talk about her. No. Clara patted the rock beside her. Tell me about her. What was she like? Rosie sat her small legs dangling over the water. She was soft, and she smelled like bread because she was always baking. She sang songs while she worked. Papa says I have her eyes. They're beautiful eyes. She used to brush my hair every night, told me stories about princesses and dragons and brave knights. Rosie's voice went small. I miss that. Would you like me to brush your hair? Rosie looked up, hope warring with uncertainty. You wouldn't mind. I would love to. Clara reached over, smoothed a strand of hair from Rosie's face. I can't replace your first mama, Rosie. I wouldn't try. But I can love you in my own way, if you'll let me. I'd like that. Rosie leaned against Clara's side. Can I tell you a secret? Of course. Sometimes I feel bad for being happy. The words came out in a rush. Because Mama's dead and Thomas is dead, and I should be sad forever. But I'm not sad all the time anymore. I'm happy you're here. And then I feel guilty for being happy. Clara's heart clenched. Oh, sweetheart, your mama wouldn't want you to be sad forever. How do you know? Because she loved you, and people who love us want us to be happy. Clara pulled Rosie closer. Being happy doesn't mean you've forgotten her. It means you're living the life she'd want for you. Papa says the same thing. Then he's right. He's right a lot. Rosie grinned. Don't tell him I said that. Your secret's safe with me. They sat together watching the water, listening to the frogs begin their evening chorus. When Sam found them an hour later, they were still there, Rosie's head in Clara's lap, both of them peaceful in a way that made his throat tighten. There you are. Here we are. Clara smiled up at him. Rosie was telling me about Mary. Sam's expression flickered pain, then something softer. Yeah. She sounds wonderful. She was. Sam sat beside them, his hand finding Clara's. Different from you. Gentle where you're fierce, but wonderful in her own way. I'm glad you had her. You had. even though losing her hurt. So am I. Sam looked out at the water. Took me a long time to realize that. For a while I wished I'd never met her. Thought that would have hurt less than losing her. Would it have? No. Sam's grip tightened on her hand. The loving was worth the losing. I know that now. How do you know? Because I'm doing it again. Sam's eyes met hers. Loving someone, even though it means I could lose them. And this time, I'm choosing it with my eyes open. Clara lifted his hand to her lips. Then we're both brave fools. Best kind of fool to be. That night, after Rosie was asleep, Sam and Clara sat on the porch watching stars emerge. Wade came by while you were at the creek, Sam said. Had news. Clara tensed. What kind of news? Price left Wyoming, took the eastbound stage 3 days ago. The breath Clara hadn't known she was holding escaped in a rush. He's really gone. Wade heard from the marshal who escorted him to the territorial line. Price's reputation took a hit when those marshals refused to enforce his order. Apparently word got around about what kind of man he really was. Sam's arm came around her shoulders. He won't bother us again. You're sure? Sure as I can be. Men like Price, they can't stand being humiliated. Coming back would mean admitting he lost. His pride won't let him. Clara leaned into Sam's warmth, letting relief wash through her. For the first time since she'd boarded that stage in Boston, she felt truly safe. It's over, she whispered. It's over. Sam pressed his lips to her hair. You're free, Clara. Really free. For maybe the first time in your life. I don't know what to do with free. Whatever you want. Sam's voice was gentle. That's the whole point. Clara thought about it, about all the years of obligation of service, of making herself useful so others would keep her. And now here on this porch, with this man with their daughter sleeping inside, she had no obligations, except the ones she chose. I want to learn to ride, she said suddenly. Properly, I mean, not just sitting on a gentle horse. Okay. And I want to play that piano, the one Mary brought. I'd like that. And I want... Clara stopped, her voice catching. I want to be a good mother to Rosie. Not a replacement for Mary, but someone she can count on. Someone who chooses her every day. You already are. I want to be better. Clara turned to face him. I want to be better than I've ever been. At everything. Because for the first time I'm doing it for myself. Not to earn my keep. Not to prove I'm useful. Just because I want to. Sam's smile spread slow and warm. Then that's what you'll do. You make it sound simple. Ain't nothing simple about it. Sam kissed her softly. But simple and easy ain't the same thing. Loving you is simple. Living with you might be hard work. But I've never been afraid of hard work. Neither have I. Then we'll figure it out. Together. Clara looked at her husband. This man who'd searched for her in a desert, who'd fought for her against a powerful enemy, who'd chosen her when she was broken and scared and uncertain. This man who loved her not despite her difficulties, but because of the courage it took to keep fighting through them. Together, she agreed. And for the first time in 34 years, Clara Bennett Thornton believed completely in her own future. September brought cooler mornings and golden afternoons. Clara stood at the piano for the first time on a Tuesday, her fingers hovering over keys that hadn't been touched in 3 years. Dust had settled into the spaces between them, a physical reminder of all the silence this house had held. You don't have to, Sam said from the doorway. If it's too much. It's not too much. Clara pressed one key. A single note rang out slightly flat from neglect. It's exactly enough. She sat carefully, her right leg protesting the angle, and began to play. The melody came haltingly at first, muscle memory, fighting against years of disuse. But note followed note, and soon the song emerged whole, a hymn her mother had taught her, before fever took both parents in the same cruel week. Rosie crept into the room, drawn by the sound. She stood transfixed, watching Clara's hands move across the keys. "That's beautiful," Rosie whispered when the final note faded. "I didn't know pianos could sound like that." "Your first mama played too," Sam said, his voice rough. "Different songs, but just as beautiful." "Can you teach me?" Rosie asked Clara. "To play like that?" "If you want to learn." "I want to." Rosie climbed onto the bench beside Clara. "Show me where to put my hands." Clara guided small fingers to the keys, showing Rosie the position for a simple scale. The child's face screwed up with concentration as she pressed each note in turn. "That's it," Clara encouraged. "Again. Slower this time." Sam watched from the doorway as his daughter learned her first scale from his second wife on a piano his first wife had brought from St. Louis. 3 women, 3 lives woven together in ways none of them could have predicted. "Thank you," he said quietly. Clara looked up. "For what?" "For being here. For teaching her. For—" Sam's voice caught. "For making this house feel like a home again." "It's my home too now." Clara's hand found Rosie's, stilling the clumsy scale. "Our home. All of us together." "Yeah." Sam's smile spread slow and warm. "All of us together." The days shortened as autumn deepened. Clara's walking improved until she could manage the distance to the barn and back without her crutch. Her limp would always remain, Wade said, but she'd learned to move with it rather than against it. "You're favoring your left too much," Sam observed one morning as she crossed the yard. "Gonna throw out your hip if you keep compensating like that." "Then what do you suggest?" "Lean on me." Clara stopped, turning to face him. "I've been trying not to lean on anyone." "I know. That's the problem." Sam closed the distance between them. "Marriage ain't about being self-sufficient, Clara. It's about being stronger together than either of us would be alone." "I don't know how to do that." "Neither do I. But I'm willing to learn if you are." Clara studied his face, this man who'd found her dying in a canyon, who'd fought for her when fighting seemed hopeless, who'd chosen her every day since. "Teach me. Lean on me when walking hurts. Let me carry the heavy things. Ask for help when you need it." Sam's hands found her waist, steadying her. "And let me lean on you too, because God knows I need it sometimes." "When do you need it?" "When I miss Mary so bad I can't breathe. When I look at Rosie and see everything Thomas would have been. When the ranch feels like too much and I want to give up and walk away." Sam's voice roughened. "Those nights, Clara, when you hold me in the dark and don't ask questions, that's you carrying me." "I didn't know. I didn't tell you. Pride, I reckon. Same pride that keeps you trying to walk without help." Sam's forehead pressed against hers. "We're both too proud for our own good. Then we'll learn humility together." Together. Sam kissed her softly. "I like the sound of that." October brought the first frost. Clara woke to find the world transformed, every surface glittering with ice crystals that caught the morning light. She lay still for a moment, Sam's warmth solid against her back, listening to the silence of the frozen world. "You're thinking too loud," Sam mumbled into her hair. "Sorry." "Don't be sorry. Just tell me what's on your mind." "I was thinking about Boston. About the life I left behind." Clara rolled to face him. "I used to wake up every morning dreading the day, wondering what demands would be made, what impossible standards I'd fail to meet. Now, I wake up and feel—" "Feel what?" "Grateful." The word came out wondering. "Just grateful. For you. For Rosie. For this life that's so different from anything I imagined." "You imagined something different." "I imagined surviving, enduring, getting through each day until there were no more days left." Clara's hand found his face in the dim light. "I never imagined thriving, never imagined loving something so much that losing it would destroy me." "Does that scare you?" "Terrifies me." Clara smiled despite the admission. But I wouldn't trade it. Not for anything. Good. Sam pulled her closer. Because I ain't letting you go. I'm not asking you to. They lay tangled together as dawn light strengthened warm in their bed, while frost sparkled on the window panes. Outside the ranch waited with its demands and duties. But for this moment, there was only the two of them breathing together, choosing each other again. Sam. Yeah. I want to ride today. Really ride, not just sitting while you lead the horse. Sam went still. Wade said your leg. Wade said it might never support full riding. He didn't say I couldn't try. Clara propped herself up on one elbow. I've been walking for 2 months. I can feel myself getting stronger. But I can't know what's possible if I don't push. And if you push too hard, if you fall, then I get back up, same as always. Sam was quiet for a long moment. Then he nodded. Okay. We'll try it. But I'm riding beside you the whole time, and if I say stop, you stop. Deal. Deal. The first attempt was a disaster. Clara couldn't swing her right leg over the saddle properly. The angle was wrong, the strength wasn't there, and she ended up sliding off the horse's side in an undignified heap. Don't you dare laugh, she warned Sam, who was clearly struggling to contain himself. Wouldn't dream of it. Liar. But Clara was laughing, too sprawled in the dirt with her pride bruised, but her determination intact. Help me up. I want to try again. Maybe we should... Help me up, Samuel Thornton. He helped her up. The second attempt failed too, and the third. But on the fourth try, something clicked. Clara found the right angle, used her left leg for leverage, and somehow awkwardly, painfully ended up in the saddle. I did it! Her voice came out breathless with wonder. Sam, I'm riding! You're sitting on a horse that's standing still. That ain't quite riding. Don't ruin this for me. Sam mounted his own horse, bringing it alongside hers. Ready. No. Clara's hands tightened on the reins. But I'm going anyway. They started at a walk, the slowest possible pace. Clara's right leg screamed with each movement, her balance precarious, her confidence shaky. But she stayed on. One step, then another, then 10, then 20. How's it feel? Sam asked. Like freedom. Clara's face transformed with joy, despite the pain. Like I'm finally reclaiming the last piece of myself. They rode to the creek and back barely a quarter mile. But when Clara slid off the horse at the barn, her legs shaking from exertion, she felt more alive than she had in months. Told you I could do it. Never doubted you. Sam's arm came around her waist, supporting her. Stubborn woman. You're stubborn woman. Damn right. November arrived with wind that cut like knives. Clara had settled into the rhythms of ranch life, now contributing what she could and accepting help when she needed it. She managed the household accounts, planned meals, taught Rosie, played piano in the evenings while Sam read by the fire. I got a letter today, Sam said one night after Rosie was asleep. From Henderson. Clara looked up from her mending. What about the town council? They want to build a proper schoolhouse. Sam's expression was strange. They're asking if you'd consider teaching. Clara's needle stilled. Me. You taught in Boston for 15 years. You're the most educated woman in the territory. Sam leaned forward. They're offering a salary. Not much, but something. And they'd schedule around your duties here. I don't... Clara stopped, her mind racing. I came here to be a wife, a mother, not to... You came here to choose your own life. Sam's voice was gentle. If teaching is something you want, we'll make it work. If it's not, you say no, and that's the end of it. What do you want? I want you to be happy, whatever that looks like. Clara set down her mending, considering. Teaching had been her prison in Boston, a duty performed to earn her keep, not a calling pursued for love. But here it could be different. Here she would be choosing it freely. I want to think about it. Take all the time you need. She thought about it for 3 days. watched Rosie devour every lesson she offered, remembered the children in Boston who'd actually wanted to learn, whose faces had lit up when understanding dawned, imagined a classroom full of ranch children who'd never had a proper teacher. "Yes," she told Sam on the fourth morning. "Tell them yes." "You're sure?" "I'm sure." Clara smiled. "It's time I started building something of my own, not because I have to, but because I want to." The schoolhouse opened in February. 12 students ranging from 6 to 14 crammed into the small building, their faces bright with curiosity and mischief. Clara stood at the front with her crutch leaning against the wall. She still needed it for long days, and introduced herself as Mrs. Thornton. "I know most of you have never had a proper teacher," she began. "Some of you might think school is boring. You might be right, it can be if all you do is memorize facts and recite them back." She paused. "But that's not what we're going to do here." "What are we going to do?" asked a boy in the back, challenge in his voice. "We're going to learn how to think, how to question, how to understand the world around us." Clara moved to the chalkboard, her limp barely noticeable now. "And we're going to start by talking about why." "Why what?" "Why anything? Why does the sun rise? Why do plants grow? Why do people build towns in the middle of nowhere?" Clara turned to face them. "Anyone who can answer a why question gets extra time at lunch." Hands shot up. Clara smiled. This, she thought, was what she was meant for. Not the empty performance of competence she'd mastered in Boston, but real teaching, the kind that sparked minds and changed lives. Spring came gently that year. Clara stood on the porch, watching Rosie chase Biscuit through grass that had turned impossibly green overnight. 1 year. 1 year since she'd boarded that stage in Boston, since the crash had broken her body and nearly taken her life. "Penny, for your thoughts," Sam said, joining her. "I was thinking about the canyon, about crawling through that heat, certain I was going to die." Clara's hand found his. "Thinking about how grateful I am that I didn't." "I'm grateful too. I used to wonder why I survived when the others didn't. The driver, the other passengers, they had families too. Dreams. Plans." Clara's voice went quiet. "Why me?" "Maybe there isn't a why." Sam pulled her close. "Maybe you survived because you refused to quit. Because you're too stubborn to die in a ditch." "That's not very philosophical." "Never claimed to be a philosopher." Sam kissed her temple. "But I know this, you're here. With me. With Rosie. Living a life you chose instead of one that was handed to you. Maybe that's reason enough." Rosie came running up, breathless and grass-stained. "Mama, Papa, the Hendersons are coming up the road." Henderson had avoided them for months after Price's departure, ashamed of his earlier cowardice. But lately, he'd been making overtures. Repairs offered for free extra supplies left at the general store with their name on them. "Guess he's finally ready to apologize face to face," Sam muttered. "Be nice." "I'm always nice." Liar. The Hendersons' wagon rolled up the valley road and stopped at the house. Henderson climbed down slowly, hat in hand, his wife beside him with a covered basket. "Sam, Mrs. Thornton." Henderson's voice was gruff. "We came to that is, I wanted to." "What James is trying to say," Mrs. Henderson interrupted, "is that we're sorry, both of us, for not standing with you when it mattered." "You were there," Clara said to Mrs. Henderson, "for the wedding. And James wasn't. That's what he's sorry for." Mrs. Henderson elbowed her husband. "Aren't you, James?" "I was scared." The admission cost Henderson visible effort. Price had money, influence. I didn't know what he might do to my business, so I stayed quiet when I should have spoken up. And now, Sam asked, his voice neutral, "Now I know better. Know that standing quiet while a good woman gets threatened ain't the kind of man I want to be." Henderson straightened. "I can't undo what I did. But I can do better going forward, if you'll let me. Sam looked at Clara. She gave a tiny nod. Appreciate you saying so, Henderson. Sam extended his hand. Let's leave it in the past. Henderson's grip was firm with relief. Thank you. Mrs. Henderson thrust the basket at Clara. Apple pie, still your favorite recipe. Clara smiled. Still the best in the territory. They stayed for coffee, the conversation slowly warming as old awkwardness faded. Rosie showed off her reading progress. Sam and Henderson talked about cattle prices. The women discussed the upcoming church social. Normal life, ordinary connections, the fabric of community weaving itself back together. After the Hendersons left, Clara sat on the porch steps, watching the sunset. Rosie was inside practicing scales, the notes drifting through the open window. Sam sat beside her. Good day? Good day, Clara agreed. Good year. Clara leaned against his shoulder. Sam. Yeah. If you could go back, if you could do it all over again, would you still post that advertisement? Still choose a mail-order bride? Sam was quiet for a long moment. Yes. Even knowing what would happen, the crash, the crawling, all of it led to you, so yes. Sam's arm came around her. I'd choose you again in a heartbeat. 100 times. 1,000. Even though I'm stubborn and difficult, and I'll probably never walk without a limp. Especially because of those things. Sam turned her face toward his. Clara, you want to know what I see when I look at you? What? I see a woman who crawled through hell to keep a promise, who faced down a man who wanted to own her and walked away free, who learned to love a little girl who needed her, and a broken man who didn't know he needed anyone. Sam's voice roughened. I see the bravest, most stubborn, most magnificent person I've ever known. And I thank God every day that you chose this life. Chose me. Clara's eyes filled. I thank God too. For sending you to find me. For giving me something worth surviving for. We found each other. Sam kissed her softly. That's what matters. Inside Rosie's scales had transformed into a halting melody. The hymn Clara had taught her played with more enthusiasm than skill. She's getting better, Sam observed. She's persistent. Clara smiled. Like her father. And her mother. The word hung between them, precious and earned. Her mother. Not stepmother. Not Papa's new wife. Mother. I never thought I'd have this, Clara whispered. A family. A home. Someone who loves me not for what I can do, but for who I am. Now you have all of it. Sam pulled her close. And you earned every bit. We earned it. Together. Together. Sam nodded slowly. I like that word. So do I. They sat watching the last light fade, listening to their daughter play, breathing in the peace they'd built from wreckage and will. 1 year ago, Clara Bennett had crawled through a desert with broken legs, driven by nothing but a promise and a refusal to quit. Now, she was Clara Thornton, wife-mother-teacher. A woman who'd chosen her own life instead of accepting the one handed to her. A woman who'd learned that love wasn't something you earned through usefulness, but something freely given and freely received. The promise that never arrived on schedule had become something better than punctuality could ever offer. It had become a family forged in fire, a love proven by choice, a life built not on obligation, but on the daily decision to stay, to fight, to choose each other again and again. Clara looked at her husband, at their home, at the land stretching toward mountains still crowned with spring snow. I'm happy, she said, and the wonder in her voice made Sam smile. Good. Not just surviving, not just enduring, actually genuinely happy. You deserve it. Maybe. Clara's hand found his, their fingers lacing together. But I think I finally believe it. Rosie appeared in the doorway. Mama, Papa, are you going to sit out there all night? Maybe, Sam said. "Got a problem with that?" "Yes, I'm hungry and I can't reach the bread." Clara laughed a real laugh, full and free, and let Sam help her to her feet. "Coming, sweetheart?" They went inside together, closing the door on the darkening sky, leaving the past where it belonged. Tomorrow would bring its own challenges. The ranch would demand attention. The school would need preparation. Life would continue its relentless forward march. But tonight, they had a warm house, a waiting daughter, a love that had survived desert and fever, enemies and doubt. Tonight, they had everything that mattered. And Clara Thornton, the woman who crawled through hell to keep a promise, knew with absolute certainty that she was finally, completely, irrevocably home.